Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Wednesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are doing well out there and having a great start to your day and a fantastic week out there so far. Got you an update on what's going to happen with the severe weather threat today. We're going to talk about an area of the country we typically don't talk about much, at least on this channel. But we're going to try to figure out this threat today. It's definitely a severe weather threat that you typically see more so in June. But here we are, kind of in the early portion of May still, and we definitely have a threat of severe storms for areas of the northern plains, like areas of Montana, eastern Wyoming, eastern Colorado, areas of western Kansas, Nebraska, and even Oklahoma, even into the panhandle of Texas. So we're going to try to figure this out for you folks and then get you guys on your way. So with that being said, if you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. And more importantly, if you guys got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put it in the comments below so I can pray over it, so others can do so also. And we can all look out for one another. It's a family type atmosphere here. And more importantly, we can glorify God doing it. So let's get rolling this morning. I've had to start this video over multiple times. Just very distracted by the noise outside of my room. I don't know. Typically, I'm able to just kind of drown it out, not really pay attention to it. But man, I've been super distracted this morning. So definitely asking for prayers. Also, I want to throw this out there for my wife. She has a big test today, one of her last tests before she starts her internship, probably at the end of summer. So definitely asking for prayers that she kills it today, does very well. And I know you guys will pray for that for me, and I really appreciate that very much. So what we got going on water vapor loop? Upper trough swinging through. This will get a negative tilt to it over, well, it's pretty much doing it right now, but really will begin to do so over the next 24 hours. This will promote an atmosphere for severe weather in this region right into here. Give or take the wiggle of the line a little bit. I would say it'll be more so in this area right into here today will have the highest threat for severe weather. Really, I'm watching northeast Colorado for some very large hail today, but this will kind of be the area to watch. And then we're going to have a little bit of a spin that does develop into this region right here. It's already doing so. And this will continue to work its way northeast into areas of northern Louisiana, northeast Texas, and Arkansas throughout the day. This will be an interesting little feature today outside the severe weather threat. I think this will look really neat on radar, but unfortunately, it's going to potentially bring some flooding rains and severe weather threat to areas that I just mentioned right into here. So these are kind of the areas to really watch today. The entire eastern U.S. is kind of being influenced by troughing, so drier air is in place. So you're going to have just a stable atmosphere, cooler, dry air moving in, and pretty much no storm development in this region. So moving forward here, we look at the Storm Prediction Center. The latest update. Now just remember, a lot of times this updates about an hour or two after I drop the video. So this might be different. Who knows? Maybe northeast Colorado might get an enhanced risk, which is a level 3 out of 5. But as of now, you have the slight risk, pretty large slight risk, extends all the way from far southeast Montana, all the way through pretty much all of eastern Wyoming, portions of southwest and western South Dakota, western Nebraska, western Kansas, the panhandle of Oklahoma and Texas, even areas of a very small section of northeast New Mexico. And then I'm watching eastern Colorado today will be a big threat. Sorry, I keep scratching my nose. It just keeps itching. So tornado threat, I think, will be the highest right here in northeast Colorado today, where the geographical features in this area, basically the changing of elevation, I think will actually aid in creating a brief spin up here. Maybe not brief. It might be a photogenic tornado. I know there's not highly populated areas out here in northeast Colorado, but there's certainly a lot of towns and communities. So please be aware of a tornado threat today. You have in this brown area a 5% risk of a tornado within 25 miles of any given location. Includes all of northeast Colorado. It does include a very small section of southeast Wyoming, including Cheyenne, and does include sections of southwest Nebraska and northwest Kansas. So the wind threat, just a large 15% risk. And remember, that criteria is a 15% risk winds pushing 50 knots or higher. It's around 55 to 60 miles per hour. The hail threat will be definitely elevated today. This does include Denver. Normally, typically with these setups in the plains, you have a lot of dry, cold air aloft, and it's almost guaranteed you're going to get hail in at least some of these storms. But you got the 15% risk, and remember the criteria for that is a 15% risk of hail pushing 1 inch or diameter or larger in this yellow area. And then you have the hatched risk, which is the black outlined area you see here. That is a 10% risk of significant hail, which the criteria of that is 2 inch in diameter or larger. There's a 10% chance of that within 25 miles in any given location in this black outlined area. This does include Denver. It does include, what is that, Gillette? No, that's Wyoming. It does include areas Fort Morgan, Sterling, Greeley. Hopefully I say some of these towns right. Haven't talked about this area of the country a lot lately. Goodland, Colby, McCook, you guys, Imperial, you guys will be under the gun for a chance for some large hail today. I will mention a flooding threat too. There's a little bit of a flooding threat in areas of eastern Wyoming today. So there's a slight risk that the criteria for that is at least a 15% chance of seeing flash flood guidance being met. And then in the moderate risk down here, which I think you could have some concerns today in this region, that is at least a 40% risk of flash flood guidance being met in this red area. So this is because of this, what we call a mesoscale convective vortex, not system vortex, MCV, a mesoscale convective vortex, which is kind of the same as an MCS, mesoscale convective system, but vortex, pretty much the difference is vortex has a little bit of a spin to it, almost its own little area of low pressure, and there will be a spin on radar in this area. This could create a very small tornado threat, but the main threat here will just be for some gusty winds and some flooding rains in this region. So let's go on and talk about the northern plains, and I'll try to mention as many towns and communities as possible. Forgive me if I mispronounce anything. It's going to happen. It's bound to happen. But you know, I'm just a southern boy here in South Carolina talking about the weather up here in Wyoming and Montana and Dakotas and stuff. So definitely give me some slack, and typically y'all do. Y'all are always very kind about it. But we got some areas of showers and storms ongoing in Nebraska this morning, but that's not really going to be the big deal today. It's going to be what forms later this afternoon. And then bang, as this low pressure with the heating of the day dynamics build into this region, this low pressure will bring the forcing. This will promote thunderstorm development. And we're going to zone in on Colorado here in a second. So bear with me. We're going to talk a little bit more about Wyoming and Montana and the Dakotas in this really quick. But some big time storms could begin to form in all of eastern Wyoming. This will be very widespread, I think. I don't think it'll be super discrete. But some areas in this graphic are in central time. Some are in mountain time. So if you're in mountain time, back this right here up 2 hours. Central time, back it up 1 hour. So it would be 7 p.m. in mountain time, 8 p.m. in central time. But some storms are moving through. This could be a very intense area of storms around 9 to 10 p.m. tonight in western Nebraska. So I would watch out in this region. You know, if you're in the communities of Scottsbluff, Alliance, what is that? Chadron, not sure how y'all pronounce that. Kimball, Sydney. Some of these names are pretty easy to pronounce. I just overthink it and end up adding my own little stretched out portion of it. So just an area of storms later this evening, and this could drift into areas of southern, especially southwestern South Dakota throughout the night tonight, and could bring a lot of rain. And some of these storms, you know, in Wyoming could, you know, produce a lot of hail. Like, for example, you see this storm right into here, and this is just a model. This is the H-triple-R model, which gets a lot of crap. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to use that, but it gets a lot of hate sometimes for not being accurate. But honestly, all models get some sort of they get dissed on some sort of way, so they all have their downfalls, that's for sure. But watch out Gillette a little bit later this evening, 9, 10, 11 p.m. You could certainly see some intense storms in this area later this evening. You know, a lot of this won't fire up in the afternoon. Will be more so in the evening. So you keep this going here. Rounds of not just storms, guys, but heavy rain continues to move through later in the evening. At this point, this is around midnight to about 1 a.m. in the morning here in areas of western Nebraska, areas of South Dakota. You got a lot of rainfall and a lot of moisture moving in from the south, and you will have a severe risk here in the very far areas of southeastern Montana. But it just depends. It just depends on what happens. Remember, these models aren't always going to be perfect. But I would say if you get any bad weather here in Montana, it'll be later this evening. But strong storm or two could fire up early in the afternoon. These models aren't going to be perfect in this region. But, for example, basically in this entire region throughout the day today, and really this evening, and this is not dark like I want it to be, this entire area right into here. And we're going to talk about Colorado in a second. Just watch out for some big-time storms, large hail, gusty winds, and even a brief tornado, especially on the southern mode of this. So let's go on and talk about Colorado. So I'm really watching, I would say, after dinner time today. So here's a big storm right here that fires up. This could be producing a lot of hail. And this is just, let me get down to Colorado down here on my old Google Maps. So you got the Denver area right into here. I'm sorry, right into here. My bad. Right into here. Big storm. And even though it doesn't really show storms over Denver, Denver is known for crazy weather. I tell my folks here in South Carolina all the time that just think the weather changes so much. Try living in areas of like eastern Colorado and Denver, where it'll be 90 degrees one day and the next day you're getting a crazy cold front and a blizzard. But watch out the Greeley area, Fort Morgan, the Sterling region. I can almost bet a paycheck that you're going to have a big supercell somewhere in this region. This could be producing a tornado, but I say there's a higher chance that it'll be producing some big hail. I'm talking about baseball size hail. There's going to be a really bad storm somewhere in this area of northeast Colorado today. The storm probably will ride up Interstate 76, right all the way probably into southwest areas of Nebraska. But Sterling, I would watch out for a really nasty hailstorm today. Fort Morgan, and like I said, this could be producing a tornado. You had the 5% risk, the highest risk of a tornado for today in this region right into here. But this storm will head up to, Julesburg, Yuma. Watch out in that area too. It's a little further south in this region. But any of these small towns and communities, this eventually trails off into southwest Nebraska. This is when I would watch out for Imperial, and just watch out basically where 76 connects with 80 right into here. This entire area right here, these storms later in the evening, probably about 9, 10, 11 p.m. will eventually make their way into southwest Nebraska. But how much will they be holding together? There is the same risk of severe weather down here too, and these storms could be more intense than what they're showing on this run of the HRRR model. Remember that. I'll say it over and over and over again to the point where it probably annoys somebody in the audience, but these models are not to be used as a final solution. They're just guidance. They're guidance to try to help us along the way. But these storms could be producing some large hail too, even though they don't look as intense as maybe these storms up here in northeast Colorado. But they could be intense also. So please be aware of this today. And then we'll look at a broader view, kind of what's going on with the south central U.S. We're going to talk about this area that you're going to see here in a second. But, we keep it going here. We get into this afternoon, and we just talked about this cluster of storms right into here that we need to watch. These will continue to move, bring a lot of heavy rain and showers and storms, some hail, and maybe a chance for a tornado, very small chance here in western Nebraska. But as we get, look at the time frame, 12 a.m. Eastern time, so 11 p.m. Central time, 10 p.m. Mountain time. Big storms fire up right here, kind of along a dry line here on the New Mexico, Texas border. This is more of a conditional threat, meaning, even though you got a slight risk down here, or marginal or slight risk, a chance of severe storms, it's not going to be very widespread. But these storms right down here on the New Mexico, Texas state line, Hobbs certainly could get some nasty weather. Lovington, watch out. Denver City, Clovis. Anybody in this region right here, some of these small towns and communities, be on the outlook later tonight. I'm talking about like maybe after midnight going forward. An area of intense storms could develop in far eastern New Mexico, make its way into western Texas, and be quite intense. And we'll see how these evolve. And this really becomes negatively tilted into the overnight hours into tomorrow. And then we can see a big sweeping line of storms in the same areas tomorrow. But this will pose its own threat. This will be kind of a different evolution. And we'll talk a little bit more on this tonight. But you'll basically have a tail whipping line of storms. And this is a clear sign of a strengthening low pressure. I've seen this before, but this is a little different. This is happening closer to the front range. So next thing we'll mention today, let's make sure I don't have a closer look. Let's go on and dive down to Texas. Is this spin, and we'll look at the radar right now out of the Houston, Texas area, and you have a nasty line of storms making its way through towards Galveston. I always want to put an ing in Galveston. You got a line of storms making its way through the area. A lot of heavy rain falling in Houston. A lot of heavy rain. Basically, almost the entire coastline of Texas is seeing a lot of heavy rain. I wish we could have some of that here in my neck of the woods. We didn't get a drop of rain yesterday. We haven't had rain in May yet. So 10 days, I'm starting to think we're going to go the whole entire first half of May here in my neck of the woods without rain. But a lot of rain continues to fall in southeast Texas and will continue to do so over the next couple of days. But I think today will be a big day of rain. But this area of storms will make its way into northern Louisiana and Arkansas today. So a rainy day incoming, and we'll kind of watch the evolution of this as it trails off. There will be a pretty interesting spin on radar today. I really think there will be. But as we're getting into the early afternoon time frame, this begins to make its way into eastern Texas, pretty much covering up the entire eastern Texas region with heavy rain anywhere from Tyler, Texas, Texarkana, Lufkin, Longview. Could be experiencing some heavy rain, and this continues to kind of move its way into the Arkansas or northern Louisiana area. And we'll go on and move up into this region. You guys could be dealing with some heavier rain, showers of rain, maybe not necessarily big-time storms or anything, but as early as 1-2 p.m. this afternoon here in southern Arkansas. But I would say more widespread rains begin to move in later in the afternoon, evening. Could be a very stormy afternoon, evening for central and northern Louisiana, all the towns and communities in there. And then I would say watch out for some rounds of showers and storms overnight tonight here in Arkansas into the wee hours of the morning. And then I think you'll wake up to a lot of ruckus from some showers and storms again in Louisiana tomorrow morning. But rainfall from both events just between now and Friday morning. 2 to 3 inches of rain is possible in Nebraska, northeast Colorado. Now this is accounting for what could happen tomorrow too, not just today. So a few inches of rain is possible in this entire region up here. Southeast Texas, 1 to 2, 3 inches of rain. Certain areas will probably see close to 5 inches of rain. Whoever gets just kind of slammed with the same area of storms, like there's certain areas along between basically Corpus Christi and Houston this morning that are getting probably a few inches of rain in a very short amount of time. But northern Louisiana, I think, will be an area to watch for 2, 3, 4 inches of rain. Same thing with southern Arkansas. A lot of rain can fall in this region. The rest of the north central U.S. today, don't want to just neglect the rest of you guys. Some showers are drifting out of Minnesota. Will drift into far northern Wisconsin and then to the UP of Michigan later this afternoon. And some of these could produce maybe a heavier shower. And then we'll watch for some storm development maybe south of International Falls, maybe in the northern portions of Minnesota a little bit later this afternoon, probably into this evening. And then even got some big storms firing up over the U.S.-Canadian line into Canada. So certainly be aware of that for you folks in Canada. A round of storms could fly through north of the U.S. border. And then later tonight, to the wee hours of morning into tomorrow morning, you could be waking up to some stormy conditions in the Minneapolis area, southern Minnesota, and eastern South Dakota could wake up to some heavier rain. We'll see how that evolves overnight into tomorrow morning. The rest of the southeast, guys, pretty quiet weather. More stable conditions have moved in. But if you're in Alabama, I would say the northern half of Alabama stands the best chance. Into this evening, around dinner time tonight, you guys could certainly see some pop-up showers and storms and even some energy flying through. I would say more widespread in Mississippi. Definitely some like almost summer type pop-ups are possible, but basically from eastern Georgia, northeast, all the way up in here into this region, more stable, drier air moves in, and you won't be dealing with really any storm development in this region. But as soon as you get, I would say, west of Atlanta, you have a risk of a pop-up shower or storm today. Getting into the morning hours of tomorrow morning, still not a whole lot going on besides this area of showers and storms that I mentioned a couple minutes ago. Northeast will be the best weather day today. It'll be spring-like conditions up here. Might not be a drop of rain in the Northeast today. It really won't. It'll be beautiful conditions in the Northeast. So sorry to only give you guys about 20 seconds of fame here, but just a beautiful day in the Northeast. 50s, 60s, 70s for highs. And talking about temperatures, I mean, it'll get to the 60s well into Maine. Just a day of 60s and 70s, a beautiful spring-like day. I mean, even down into the Carolinas, you'll have drier air. So the low 80s, mid 80s will feel a lot better than what the upper 80s and low 90s felt yesterday, where you had some humidity in the air. But I mean, it's getting to that time of the year where everybody's warm. You're getting into the 70s, into the UP, 70s, even some low 80s in the Michigan, Ohio Valley, Mississippi Valley, 70s and 80s, Midwest 80s. Rain-cooled air will dominate the region here in eastern Texas, areas of Louisiana and Arkansas because of this huge area of rain. But in general, still not cold by any means. But the hottest part of the country will certainly be southern Georgia and Florida, where temperatures will get well into the 90s. Some areas might hit the upper 90s. Very, very warm day in Florida today. You will sweat your tail off, that's for sure. We'll talk about this tonight, but you do have a massive slight risk. Widespread areas could see severe weather tomorrow. Slight risk tomorrow that stretches from Oklahoma City all the way to central South Dakota and a little area down here in the deep south. Tornado risk, just a large 5% risk as of now in this brown area. And sorry, I'm skimming through this very quick. I'm running low on time. But a large threat of damaging winds, just not a very high threat. But I would say there could be a significant risk, hatched risk of large hail tomorrow. So we'll talk about this in detail tonight. So stay tuned for that. And I appreciate the support, guys. And that's all I got. Y'all have a great day. God bless all y'all. And I'll talk to you this evening.